What's up, guys? Welcome to Fold Out Fellowship, a podcast geared for high school and college students. This is where we're going to have great conversations about faithful living in today's world. We just hope that you sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's episode of Fold Out Fellowship.
Really into my BPN supplements recently. BPN greens, protein, creatine, pre-workout, post-workout.
BPN.
Bare Performance Nutrition.
Just to throw.
Just wanted to throw that out there. Thank you.
You pull one out and you're like, in case you missed it.
Please sponsor me.
Please.
Or at least the podcast.
Anyways, welcome to this week's episode of Fold Out Fellowship. Excited for you guys to be joining us, whether that's on YouTube, Apple, or Spotify. I've got two great guests with me today, two great friends of mine. I've got Bobby Geddes.
What's up, guys?
And I've got Kate Rollins.
Hello.
And I have a question for you guys to start us off. You ready?
Let's go.
Okay.
What you got?
All right. So y'all both went to college, right?
Yes.
If you had to choose a college to go to that was not the one you attended, where would you go if you're 18 again? Knowing what you know now.
That's a great question.
Yes.
Would you like to go first? You want me to go ahead?
I think you got this one.
All right, cool. I think that if I went back to college and just could not go to where I attended school, which I'm sure none of you can tell where that was based off of
Well, the
what I'm
listeners
wearing.
can't, so.
Oh, yeah, that's true. So if you're not watching this, you can't see, but I have a bright purple and orange shirt on because I went to Clemson.
Oh, Clemson. That's okay.
But I've traveled a lot through working at Camp Ozark, and I think that I really would have enjoyed somewhere like Sanford.
Sam. Where is that?
That's in Birmingham, Alabama.
Nice.
It's a cool spot. It's a really cool school. All the people there that I've met are awesome and very involved.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good outreach and ministry, but there's also just a lot of social things going on.
Yeah.
And like clubs, activities, very active. There's always people out doing something, and it looks like a good time.
Heck yeah. What about you, Kate? Where are you going?
So I think my realistic answer would be probably Auburn. It's very similar to Clemson. I also went to Clemson.
Go Tigers.
It looks very similar, but also the student body I feel like is decently similar. And there's just a really big Christian community on campus, and also sports. But my non-realistic answer would be like University of Hawaii or like somewhere where there's like a beach.
Yeah, for the academics?
Yeah,
or-
for yes, 100% academics actually. So yes, those were my answers.
Gotcha.
I tried to get my film in high school sent to the University of Hawaii just on the off chance that they would want me to come so that I could go to
Fully
school in
paid.
Hawaii.
It sounds like a great school opportunity, if you ask me. I went to LSU, also Go Tigers, spelled a little differently, though.
A few more letters.
If I had to choose a college to go to, I think I'm rolling with Auburn. Really, really fun atmosphere, it seems like. I don't know if I would enjoy football at Auburn just as much as I did at LSU, but go Tigers, you know.
Yeah, you guys stuck to the Tigers.
Yeah,
train.
we really did.
Go
I
Tigers.
jumped ship to the Bulldog there, which was unfortunate. But
Yeah. Anyway, so to start us off, it kind of leads us into our topic of discussion today. So there's a little choice you have to make as a high school senior to go to a college. I don't know if you guys experienced any kind of stress with that. No, nothing
No,
at all.
none,
Yeah,
not at all.
it
Absolutely
was all
not.
easy breezy right
Super
there.
simple.
Yeah, no stress.
No, so I, working with high school students, that's been a topic of discussion and a topic that has circulated a lot of stress for months now, maybe even more than months, maybe years, for some students of like a high pressure to choose a college, which one's the right college, which college is right for me. And that's a question that's really tough, I think, as a high school senior. And I think it can be a stressful one, but hopefully with this podcast, we can talk through that on how not to make it as stressful. But first question for you guys is, what made y'all go? I guess both of you guys went to Clemson. So, Bobby, start us off here. What made you go to Clemson? Why did you choose to go there?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think Kate and I have pretty different answers. I grew up a Clemson fan. Both my parents went to Clemson. It was a classic as a kid, like, oh, I'm for sure going to go to Clemson because that's the only school I've ever really known. And then getting into high school, I really enjoyed football. I started thinking maybe I wanted to try and play football in college. Which was right around the time that Clemson became very relevant in college football, and it was becoming less realistic to end up playing there. So my decision got harder than I thought it would. I started looking at places to play. I considered going to Coastal Carolina. I talked with them. I talked with some small schools around upstate in South Carolina because that's where I'm from. And really, I went on an official visit to a really like small D2 school in Greenville, and just did not have a great experience. And that's what really pushed me. I think that that's an awesome option if you're interested in playing sports, because I do think collegiate sports is an awesome opportunity. But I just didn't like the vibe and the people that I was interacting with when I was there. And I applied to Clemson and got accepted into their bridge program.
Oh, okay.
Which is kind of the only thing I know that correlates to it. I know a lot of schools have something similar. It's like the blend program at Texas A&M.
Okay.
You go to the tech school that's nearby for a year, and if you maintain a certain GPA, you get automatic acceptance.
Gotcha.
And so that kind of made it difficult for a little bit because I was just unsure if that was the right direction, but I really had my heart set on going to Clemson after I realized I didn't want to play at that smaller school. So I ended up going there and doing the bridge program and loving it, and then transferring in my sophomore year.
Gotcha. Sweet. And then everything was smooth sailing after that, right?
Yeah.
Clemson.
It was beautiful, smooth sailing at Clemson after
Nice.
that.
Perfect. Sweet. And then, Kate, what about you? What made you go to Clemson? How'd you get there?
So, I'm from North Carolina, and I applied to a bunch of places in North Carolina and then a few in South Carolina. And my mom is so wise and so wonderful, and she told me that every school that I got into that I was seriously considering potentially going to, I had to find someone that I knew or a friend of a friend and go stay for a weekend or a day or two to really just see, what the people are like there, what the environment is like. Can you picture yourself in this place? Because it's easy to think about a place in one way, but have never experienced it before. So that was like the practical piece of, trying to explore like where to go. And when I was at Clemson, it's a really beautiful place. The people are really great, and the options that I had on the table at the time, it was just the place where I just felt the most peace. And so I said, let's go. Why not?
Yeah. Easy enough. Yeah. No, I mean, kind of similar to you guys, but I was not a collegiate athlete. Always wish, but sometimes some of us don't make it, and that's okay. No, so I, like I said, I attended LSU, grew up an LSU fan my whole life. But like when push came to shove, senior year, not a lot of my friends from my smaller high school were going to LSU. But one, there was a drive to kind of get out of the small town, go see what's out there. Two, I had a great financial opportunity to go to LSU. So finances were a big thing. The scholarship program in Louisiana was really good. But then, so I was between LSU or UT in Austin. One gave me scholarships and one did not. And therefore I attended LSU. But no, I mean, but I went to LSU purely on not a ton of friends there, like not a ton of people I knew really well there. And then, financial things, but I didn't really put a lot of like deeper thought, like you're saying, how your mom encouraged you to go and experience that like environment for a weekend. I went to like a few games, but college is not all football games on Saturdays,
Right.
Yeah. And I shortly came to realize that. But, luckily for, us, our stories ended up being great. Like we loved school. For me, when I got to LSU, there was a little bit of like oh no, am I in the wrong place? Like, did I make the wrong choice?
Right.
Dang it, you know?
Oh, swing and a miss.
Yeah. Try again next year, I guess. No, I remember there was just a little small story. There was a time where, so I wanted to be a physical therapist, which means you have to go through a lot of science classes. I was not a huge fan of science classes, and that came to show on my first exam score of a whopping 42. And sometimes out of 100, actually. And that was my freshman year, first semester. And I remember like it's fine. Like, you know, just first exam, like just wipe off the dust. You know, we'll just get the rust off and we'll be fine. Well, about a month later, after putting in a lot of tutoring money, a lot of effort, and just pulling all-nighters, like studying and stuff, the second exam comes and I make another 42.
Consistency is key.
Consistency is, I mean, it's a key to something for sure. It was a very big key that I don't think this is what I'm supposed to do. And so I remember calling my mom. Shout out, Mom, for this new fold-out chair, by the way. Thank you. I called my mom, and I'm like, Mom, I don't know if I'm supposed to be here. Like, I swear I'm not trying to waste, you know, y'all's money or anything like that. Like, do I need to drop out? Like, do I need to go home? Do I need to go to a smaller college? And there was like a lot of doubt that started circulating with me. And I feel like a lot of the college students that we know through recruiting and stuff like that, but also the college students that were high school seniors then go, I don't know, I feel like that's a big hurdle that everyone kind of has in a little bit of time of like, am I at the right school? Like, did I make the right choice? Have y'all ever felt that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I actually experienced that kind of later in college. So the beginning was just weird because I did my first year at a tech school and I transferred in. My sophomore year, I was really busy. I was playing football and I had school and I just wasn't really doing much outside of that. But I had a purpose because I was doing both of those things. And then my junior year, I had stopped playing football and I felt very lost. My friends were mostly football. They were all very busy. I was doing school and a little bit lost in my classes because I had just started my major specific stuff, so I really wasn't sure what everything was going to be yet academically. And I just was getting by. Like, I was doing okay in school and trying to figure out what to do outside of that. I wasn't super involved because I had just come out of a huge commitment and felt very lost. And I remember talking to my parents, and I was like, I don't really know what I'm doing here. I'm very, like, unsure of where I'm headed. Do I even care about my degree?
Right.
And that's definitely something I think that a lot of people are going to go through at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me coming out of it, it was huge. I had a group of guys that I met all in kind of small different ways, but we all kind of came together as friends at Young Life Camp my senior year of high school. And they're awesome dudes, but I had not been around them a ton for those first 2 years. Well, really my sophomore year had kind of disconnected. And getting back involved in their lives and having that group of solid friends that are strong in their faith, strong people, involved in different organizations and have things to bring you to and like to help get you involved was a game changer.
Yeah.
The moment they had me, like, I got to be back involved with them and have a good group of guys around, that changed the game.
Yeah.
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 And I feel like mine was a little bit different. It was at the start of freshman year. Everyone says, like, college is going to be the best 4 years of your life. And it really can be, and it is wonderful, and there's so much growth.
Yeah.
But no one really talks about how uncomfortable of a transition it can be from you're in high school, you kind of know everyone around you. Especially for me, I went to the same school from kindergarten to high school, or until senior year. So I kind of was extremely comfortable. And then going to Clemson, I was out of state. I did not know a single person there. And so jumping in, it's like, oh, it's going to be great. I'm going to make friends immediately. I'm going to find my best friends. I'm going to get super involved, and everything's going to be perfect. And then you get there, and it's like, I do not know a single person around me. My family's not around me. None of my surroundings are familiar. And it's just uncomfortable. And it takes time to just sit with being uncomfortable and putting yourself out there. And also called my parents. I was like, Mom, like, this is hard. Like, I'm kind of lonely. Like, I know a lot of people, but I don't have, like, my people. But the biggest thing that I learned through it is that you grow when you're uncomfortable, and it just takes time.
Yeah. No, I like that you mentioned uncomfortable, because I think everyone wants the right choice fast. Everyone wants, like, a concrete, this is the correct place, because that's kind of how it's approached, right? It's like, well, how do I choose the right college? That's
one.
Right. That's assuming there's, like, just only one that's going to be the right one.
Right.
And like, for us and for a lot of friends we all know, like, when you put a lot of pressure on the right one, and then the right one doesn't work, well, then that kind of, like, reveals an idol that you've had, of, like, an idea of, this is the only one that's going to work. This is the only college I can get into. If I do not, I'm not even going to think about it, because I don't that's it. That's all I'm God, whenever I pray, like, for this college choice, this is the college, like, I'm praying for. Okay. You know? Like,
I'm not praying for the right decision. I'm praying for this decision.
Yes. Yeah. And and to Kate's point of being uncomfortable, like, we want to avoid uncomfort. We want to avoid, excuse me. We want to avoid that sense of, like, having to decide and having to discern. And that, that brings me to a great point. We're talking a lot about our college experience in college and eventually coming around and finding the right crowd. But, before that right crowd gets there, that choice, you're sitting in your living room or with your parents, and you're looking at, like, those application letters, and you're looking at the things that you either got declined or waitlisted, or you did get accepted, but, it's not in the right college, or it's not in the right thing. What would y'all say to the students, to the high schoolers that are maybe dealing with that right now, of, like, just, they have these different things in front of them. Maybe their dream school or their dream plan didn't work out, or it looks different. So maybe it's the right college in their mind, but it's not the right school, like the right major. Yeah. What would y'all say for that student going through that right now, of, like, trying to decide that?
You want to start?
I think that a big thing, if you're in the situation of you've found the school that you think is just the one, and it's not going to happen, is you need to go and look at first you need to apply to more than one school.
Yes.
Yeah, that helps.
Absolutely.
I am a firm believer that, like, kind of walking the line of what you were talking about, of making an idol out of that school. It's totally okay to have a number one school that you're like, this is my goal.
Yeah, it's a good goal.
It's great to have a goal.
Yeah.
Don't cross the line between that being a goal and an idol. Make sure you apply to some other places and have some options. But also, if that goal doesn't work out, look at those other schools that you've applied to, and look at things outside of just academics, because you're going to find a school where the academics fit. Like you said, it may not be your number one school where the major fits, but you may have another school where that major is there and you get accepted into that college program. Look and see what the rest of the opportunities there. Is there a good ministry life on that campus?
Right.
Is there a good club involvement for, like, a lot of different social aspects? Because you just need to find ways to get plugged in on campus that are going to be fun.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be in the same place you thought it would be.
Right.
Or with maybe the same high school buddies you thought it was going to be with. But if you can make those friends through, I'm a big proponent of campus involvement, because it's just the best way to really get yourself out there and make your experience awesome in school. And if you find a school that's got, like, oh wow, everyone plays intramurals, and they've got, like, a club or an organization or fraternity or sorority that looks really awesome. Yeah. Then it's like, oh, great. Now I've got things to look forward to, and the academic part is already set up. So it's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I think when in the face of disappointment regarding college choices. I can kind of speak to my experience. So I had the school in mind that, in my mind, that is where I was going to go.
Okay.
That was the goal. That's what I was working towards, the grades, the involvement. It's where my parents went, my grandparents, cousins, aunts, uncles. In my mind, that was the school. And when it came around to acceptance letters, I got waitlisted. And I was like, whoa. Like, hey, God, like, I have been praying for my plan to happen. Like, here's what I want. Please make it happen. And I was so humbled, I think, by the change of direction, because up until that point, everything had been comfortable. I had worked really hard for the things that I wanted to achieve, and those had happened. And I was like, oh, whoa, like, what do we do now? Like, this is not what I thought was going to happen. I think there was a lot of questioning myself that went on there of like, okay, well, why didn't I get in? Like, this feels like rejection. But I mean, hindsight is 20/20. And looking back, the Lord placed me exactly where I needed to be. And there was a lot of trust that went on there, and also just like growing closer to Him through the disappointment of like, okay, I don't know what this is going to look like. Like, I don't know a single person here. And that is so new for me. And I think looking back, I would have never met my very best friends. I would have never grown incredibly close to the Lord because of the wonderful community of believers on campus. And I truly believe that if like you are walking with the Lord and making Him a priority in your life, He will place you exactly where you need to be. And sometimes, a lot of the times, His plan is so much greater for us than we could ever imagine for ourselves. But it might not look the way that you think it's going to. And I think just leaning on Him and trusting Him and listening to Him on where you should go and where you end up, and trusting Him through that is really big. But it can be hard because no one likes rejection, and disappointment is really hard, especially if you've built up this one place in your mind as the best place on earth, and this is where I have to go to be happy, and this is where my people are. You build it up in your head, and just stay close to Him and listen. I feel like is the biggest advice I have. Just like trust that you will be placed where you need to be placed, and the things there that you will find are going to be so much greater than things that you could imagine for yourself.
Absolutely. I think, I was kicking myself when I got bridged to Clemson. I was just like, there's no way. Like, I did everything I needed to do to get accepted completely, start freshman year. And looking back, like you said, there's so much to be grateful for. I met so many great friends my freshman year that were living in the same like complex as me, because all the bridge kids lived in one place. And I wouldn't have ever interacted with them. I never would have. And I'm so grateful for the Lord pushing me in that direction instead of just like giving me what I wanted. Where I wouldn't have gotten to meet those folks, and I wouldn't have been challenged in the same ways. So
no, I a topic that I think commonly comes up with either my senior life group, my senior guys life group, or just like topics of like getting lunch or breakfast with high school students, or just buddies of mine. There is there's a relevant like a realization we got to have about God's plan, and I am not shouting out Drake's song "God's Plan," but God's plan is.
You're not making a realization about Drake's lyrics,
correct? No, I mean, what y'all are saying, it is so pivotal for a high school. I could only imagine, like, me having someone similar to our age, like someone just right out of college, like hindsight's 2020. They've seen the experience, they've seen disappointment, they've seen like fear of uncomfort, like when they get there and not know a lot of people, and now looking back, they're like, hey, God was working through my decision and through my college I went to. And I think that's just my like biggest encouragement or biggest thing. Like I really wish I could just tell every high school senior that is stressing and is anxious and is just worrying about making the right choice, because they want to honor They want to honor what God has in store for them. Like they're praying to God, and they're like, all right, God, I want to make the right decision for you. Like I want to make the right thing for you. And in in all reality, God's going to be the same God at whatever college you're at, in whatever school you go to. And I think, that's a huge thing about faith, is trusting that God has a plan for you before you've even made the decision. And if you're making the decision based on purely extracurricular activities, or purely the party scene, or purely the fraternity life or sorority life, if you make the decision solely based on those, chances are you might end up at a school that's great, and you might end up at a place that you get to meet a lot of great people. But also those things you've circulated your whole identity and opportunity around, when that goes crashing down, or when those don't go the way you want them to, eventually you find yourself needing to realign with what God's plan is for you. And he can show you that no matter if you're at Coastal Carolina, Clemson, LSU, no matter the school you go to. It is huge to be in prayer with God, of God, just saying the prayer of, I don't know what school to choose. I've got 3 awesome options right here. And this one has great academics. This one has a great social life. And this one is just where I really, really feel like home. Take those 3 things, pray about which one speaks loudest to you, and just run with it. Because all the plans we make in this life, it's we have to hold on to them loosely, because our plans usually aren't near how great God's plan is for us. They're just little glimpses of how awesome he's going to make it. But the whole thing about holding on to a plan loosely is being okay with plans failing. And I think that's hard for us, so.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was pretty sure I was going to go play football at the smaller school that I was going to visit. And thankfully, God gave me a really good sign when I was there. Not that I didn't really need to head that direction.
Yeah.
But, at the end of the day, I was just, really man, I thought I was going to, play sports in college. But that's not the direction I'm feeling called.
Yeah.
Clemson, yeah, I got bridged, but I've got great environment there, and I feel like the feeling of home there is huge, and I'm feeling very called to that.
Yeah.
Which was a little unexpected when I was just like, man, I just really want to play football.
Yeah.
Football is my life. And maybe there's a little bit of a lesson there of hey, you're only playing football for however long I let you play football.
Yeah, and you got to be okay with that.
Yeah.
I think about at LSU, if I were to say, when people are like, oh man, which college did you go to end up in full-time ministry?
Right.
LSU, they're like, wait, huh? But it's just a testament to how big God is. No matter the school you go to,
Absolutely.
And I didn't go to LSU for the ministry opportunities or the Christian environment. I did. It was financial reasons and a long-time fan.
Yeah.
And I ended up there, and I realized that I was there for the wrong things early on. And then, it led me to a place of feeling scared and feeling lonely and feeling like I don't have anywhere to look. God, I knew enough about God, to know that he was up there, and to know that if he's as big as people say he is, then he's big enough to be controlling this little plan I'm in right now.
Right.
And it was quick for me to blame him for the things that were going wrong. But then it kind of made me step back and be like, all right, my hands are up. I give up. It is your plan. You show me where you want me to go. You show me what your plan is for me at LSU. You guide me, give me a sign, give me some kind of beacon or something. Point me in the direction you want to go, and I will follow. I'm lost, and I'm tired of following my dreams, because they keep following my dreams is the wrong word. Following my ideals and my idols. I'm tired of following those. I'm exhausted. I'm lost. Lead me where you want me to go. I end up at a church 2 days later for the first time, where I ended up going every Sunday for 3 years of college. The day after that, I got a camp from a summer camp, and ended up working there on a whim. And I was like, all right, like God's putting this in my hands. Like, I guess I'm gonna go there. Like, it's either that or load lumber over the summer,
Right.
and boom, he was orchestrating something far bigger than I ever dreamed. And so, that's, I don't know, it's a big testament to how big he is in this decision, and like trusting that you don't have to white knuckle it, like holding tight to what your like perfect plan is, because his plan is bigger than our plan.
And kind of touching on that, like someone pointed out to me once that the Lord wants to know the desires of our heart. But a lot of the times what he has is bigger and better. So it's a balance of, asking the Lord for what you want and placing the desires of your heart with him, but then also being okay when those things don't happen, and trusting that he hears you and he's there and he's with you, but there's something better.
Yeah.
Even when you can't really see it.
Yeah.
I think is the biggest thing of like, he has the whole plan in mind, and there's no way for us to know what he has in store for us. So it's a big exercise in faith of like, my life is in your hands. Take me where you want me to go, place the people in my life that you want to lead me in different ways. And then just trusting that he's with you along the way, even if you can't fully see it in a moment. I think is a really big thing when it came to just college as a whole, and just like being in an unfamiliar place. Because I feel like even if you go to a school where you know a lot of people there and you kind of know what it looks like and you've grown up there and you've experienced it, it's going to look different than you think it's going to look, just naturally. Just it's a time of growth, and it's
not
different.
the weekends that you've been there
Yeah.
as growing up. Like, as you said, it's not all football and basketball games and like big celebrations.
And I think that also goes back to your point of just holding so tight to your plan, or like the picture in your head of what something is going to be. Because it can be far greater than you're expecting, but sometimes it's like, okay, this is not exactly what I thought it was going to be. Like, and that's okay. Like, it's different, but that different doesn't mean it's going to be bad.
Right.
It's just
God is able to work in the different
Yeah.
than what you
Yeah.
planned.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Bobby, go ahead.
I also just want to say, like, kind of to your point, when you talk about like he's going to put the people in your life that need to make, like, that are going to lead you correctly. And hitting back on the point of the guys that I started to get back involved with my junior year, it's so cool to look back and see the hand that God had that over that whole situation. Of like, I got to be back more involved with them. And then the summer between junior and senior year, I got a phone call out of nowhere. They're like, hey, we're going to have an extra room in our house. Like, would you want to live with us? And I'm just like, yes, absolutely. Like, they were supposed to be living somewhere else. It fell through. They end up with an extra room in this other house. It all worked out, like air quotes there, but it was God guiding that. And then they end up pushing me into even better directions. That's how I got involved with working at camp and ministry. And none of that happens without those people being put in my life by God. Which is just really cool, coming out of a period where you're feeling very lost and disconnected.
Yeah, I think if you are in tune with praying and reaching out to God and just asking him, hey, just be with me as I'm making these choices. Like, man, I'm so lucky you've opened these doors. Like, whichever doors I choose to go through, just I want you to lead me through those. Be with me as I choose whatever it is. And then, whenever, I think when you're choosing that school and when you're choosing what clubs to get into and when you're worried about, man, am I going to find like a great solid group of buddies? Like, am I going to find a solid community at my sorority and fraternity? Am I going to find like a really, really core group of friends that I can feel comfortable being vulnerable with and going to church with and going on mission trips with? Like, am I going to find all that? Well, believe it or not, if you are in tune with your prayer life and if you're consistently just like, God, I want you to show me the way, lead me where I need to go, the Holy Spirit's going to give you some eyes to see just really quality people. But you've got to be willing to put some effort in to, be with them, you know. And so
you have to accept the leadership that they're going to provide when he puts them in your life.
Yes, it's huge.
Even if it's your peers.
Yeah.
You need to be okay. Like, that's something I learned a lot about in college, being led by people that are your age or younger than you.
Yeah.
Sometimes they have some wisdom that you need.
Yeah. No, and be open to wisdom. Be humble enough to receive leadership and to be led. But make sure you're being led by the right heart. You know, the people that are put in your place that have the right goals and mindset, at the core, right?
Absolutely.
But yeah, do y'all have any other comments or encouragement for our high school seniors that may be listening, or people that are maybe struggling with their college decision and are freshmen right now on campus? Any last minute comments for those peeps before we close out?
I think two-part. Thinking back to the time after I had chosen where I was going to go to school, I think there's a lot of excitement in that time period, but then there's also, I feel like, a lot of nerves. And I feel like the best piece of advice is just to have joy in the journey and embrace the unknown and just lead with excitement and be excited about the new experiences you're going to have instead of leaning into fear and anxiety of, I don't know what this is going to look like.
Yeah.
And just try to have joy through it all. And then a piece of encouragement for college students, I guess college freshmen, who maybe are doubting if they're in the right place. If you're still like in your freshman year of college, just give it time. It takes time to adjust and to meet the right people. And maybe you're not going to meet your people immediately when you get there. But that doesn't mean that they're not there.
Right.
I think it just takes looking for him in every situation and training yourself to focus on the good things and what you're grateful for and what is in front of you that is really awesome. And then just being patient and just leaning into him in the lonely moments and trusting that what he has there for you will find you.
Yeah.
I don't have too much to add to that. That was great.
Yeah.
I just agree with what you said for the people that are seniors right now. Whether you've made that decision or not, yes, it is a big decision. Yes, there is weight behind it. Don't let it drag you down. You're in your last semester, last year of high school. Have so much fun with your friends. This decision, you're going to make it, and then don't let it weigh on you because you've made an awesome decision to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And problems may arise later, and that's not something you need to worry about right now.
Yeah.
And for those of you that are in college, and Kate said it best, you just may not have found those people yet. If you're a freshman, it is a time thing.
Yeah.
And it's going to be hard to push through when you're maybe feeling lonely. That's really hard on campus, away from your family, away from your friends you grew up with. But the Lord is there. Find some way to get plugged in with the Lord, whether that's a campus ministry, a church, a Bible study group, whatever that looks like for you, even if all you can do right now is some kind of quiet time for yourself.
Yeah.
And make that effort, and it will fall in line eventually.
Yeah. Yeah. I was reading some questions that some of my seniors had asked us to talk about, and that was a big one, is finding community in college. And, how do you start that? And just as we close out, just to touch on what you guys were saying. Yeah. Finding community, it takes time.
Yep.
You're gonna have buddies that come to you in a season when you're doing the whole I don't know what Clemson called it for LSU. It was called stripes, an orientation. You're gonna meet people there.
Yep.
And they might be your buddies for a few weeks, and then you get into classes and you're like, wait, who are those people? But it takes a little bit of effort.
Yeah.
This solid group of friends that you're looking towards having, I personally don't think they'll fall right into your lap with no effort at all. you've got to be willing to put your foot out there into things that you're interested in. Like intramurals in college. In college, there is so much more time, I think, than what is like told that you have. Like you have so much time to get involved with things. Like you have time in the day. Like studying is not 24/7. If we're being honest, and
Absolutely not.
At some schools, maybe.
unless it's Bobby, Bobby.
Right,
Bobby the scholar.
I've been known to be very studious,
Yes.
but everyone else.
True scholar.
No, yeah, I mean, but what I'm saying, some colleges might require more studying, obviously, but there's still so much more of an experience there than just sitting behind a laptop. So finding the things you're interested in, finding a ministry that you think is anchored in Scripture, that is true to Scripture, that doesn't get don't look for the really big fancy things that are really if they have that, great, but make sure what they're teaching is true.
Yeah.
And you're going to find people there. Just keep showing up. God is working on someone that might be in the same boat you are that is still also showing up.
Yeah.
So.
And man, to your point about like just getting like stepping out, it's not that hard to step out into like a club. A lot of schools will have like I know Clemson has what's it, Tiger Prowl? Is that what they called it?
Yeah, I think that's what's called.
And it's like almost all the clubs have a booth set up and you can just go talk to people from all of them.
Yeah.
I know not everybody's as social as I can be sometimes, but I love talking to people, so that was great. But you can just go out there, and it can be just a loose interest, and a lot of schools have random clubs. I was in the sailing club my first year at Clemson.
Nice. Hey.
I had never sailed in my life, but I love the water, and they taught me how to sail. I made friends, and you can do that. There's sports, intramurals, and it takes just a little bit of effort of putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
And that makes all the difference. I agree with you, Washington, that it's not going to fall in your lap. You do have to, and then once you meet those people, let's hang out this weekend.
Yeah.
Let's get dinner. Let's get coffee.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's build relationship.
Yes.
Yeah.
And not everyone might be as chatty as Bobby or outgoing, and that's okay too.
And that's okay.
At one point in time, my freshman year, I was really shy. And
What?
Who would have thought that? But someone at one point had told me, he was like, it takes 5 seconds of insane courage of just being like, hey, my name's Kate, what's your name?
Yeah.
That's how that's how you meet people. And just like being uncomfortable and being like, okay, this might be a little bit awkward and they might not want to talk to me, and that's fine, and we're just going to blow past it. But just being like, hey, just saying hey, just like putting yourself out there may not be your natural inclination, but you just have to do it. You just have to be uncomfortable and just do it.
Right. Sweet. Well, just to close this out, I wrote down some scripture that I wanted to share, just because there are a lot of seniors right now that are in the waiting game. We had mentioned it earlier in the podcast, but not all decisions have been made yet. Not all offers have been discussed yet. And there's some seniors out there that are in this waiting game of like, dang, like is my plan gonna fall off? Like is my plan gonna fall through? And just for you guys watching, for you guys listening, this is scripture from Jeremiah, chapter 29. It's a pretty popular verse, but it's from the prophet Jeremiah, quoting God. He says this: "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." And if you guys are in the waiting game, if you're out there and stressing about what God's plans are or what he's doing in this season of uncertainty, lean on him and know that it is exactly where you're supposed to be. This is exactly where he has planned for you to be, and trust that he is working something far bigger than you can see. And he's leading you to a place that you might not even know or be able to fathom what he's going to do, but just trust in the season of the wilderness, and wandering in the desert. Trust that he is leading you, and follow him. Lean on him to lead you, and he will do that. So that's my encouragement for you guys listening. That is this week's episode of Fold Out Fellowship. Bobby, Kate, thank you all for joining us. And stay tuned for next week. Feel free to hit the follow follow button, the subscribe button, the other buttons that alert you.
Be sure to like, subscribe, leave us a follow,
That one,
comments,
yeah, there you go.
anything you want to
Bobby's a
do.
pro. Yeah, do all those things. We hope you guys found some peace and found some good stuff in this podcast. We hope that you seniors out there or college students can use this podcast as a tool, as just something to lean on and to find truth in, and ultimately lead you closer to Jesus. So we love you guys. Thank you all for the support so far. We'll see you next week on Fold Out Fellowship. Peace.